Friends, welcome to the Word on Sunday, a platform to reflect and pray with the scripture readings of every Sunday. During the time when it was prohibited to practice Christian faith in Russia, Christian Catholics used to gather under basements to pray and worship. One day, when Christian Catholics were praying in the basement, there was a big noise on the door. Someone was kicking with the boots, and the person broke the doors open and entered the basement with weapons in his hand. People were frightened, and as he entered the basement, he said, "If there is any of you here who does not believe in Jesus, get out now." A bunch of people ran out for fear of life. Only a few people remained back. To them he said, "Actually, I believe in Jesus too, and you are now better off without those others." The discipleship of Jesus is not simple. It is radical. The discipleship of Jesus is not something that I can pencil in my calendar or the schedule of events. The discipleship of Jesus needs an immediate response. It's not something that I can answer in the next minute, next day, a week, a month, or year. The discipleship of Jesus is not simple. It is radical. Am I a fan of Jesus or a follower of Jesus? The gospel reading today presents the summary of discipleship with these three people encountering Jesus. But notice how the geographical location where this is happening. Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. Going up to Jerusalem means Jesus is going to take up his cross. The two parts of the gospel present to us the kind of selective nature of discipleship where James and John feel that everyone else was unworthy to follow Jesus, to a certain extent where they tell Jesus, "Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven and consume these Samaritans?" The discipleship of Jesus is open to all. It is not selective or clannish. It is an open invitation. In the second part of the gospel, we see how Jesus is having this encounter with three people. But going to Jerusalem, the purpose of Jesus is not to visit or to go as a tourist. He is going up to Jerusalem to accomplish God's mission, God's will and plan. If you look at these three kinds of responses to Jesus for discipleship, present to us three underlying behaviors or attitudes. The first one tells Jesus, "I will follow you wherever you go." That was a kind of very courageous words, at least in the words themselves. But it highlights that there is no guarantee of economic or material reward. If that is in my mind when I follow Jesus, I am bound to be frustrated. To the second one, Jesus says, "Follow me." But he comes with an excuse. Following Jesus is not an insurance to a safe and risk-free life. Jesus tells us in the Gospels elsewhere, "I'm sending you like lambs among wolves." The second person comes with an excuse. "I will follow you, but if, on condition." The third person of coming to discipleship, he says, "I will follow you, Lord, but first let me say farewell to my family at home." Following Jesus is not a walk in the park. Following Jesus is not to be with ifs, buts, conditions and clauses. Following Jesus, a radical discipleship calls for a profound conviction, courage, and commitment. But in the first reading, we see how Elijah and Elisha are having a conversation, but Elisha comes up to Elijah and says, "Please let me kiss my father and mother goodbye and I will follow you." And Elijah kind of consented to Elisha's request. "Go back. Have I done anything to you?" So Elisha goes back and slaughters their cows or animals and offers a big banquet to people, and then follows Elijah. That is the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, Jesus and the discipleship of Jesus needs a response right now. No ifs, no buts, no conditions and clauses. And that is what Paul is reiterating in the second reading. The very first line, stand firm and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. The first person saying, I'll follow you wherever you go. And the second person telling, let me go first and bury my father. And the third person telling, I will follow you. But all this indicate that these three people are kind of not yet standing firm, but they're subject to some kind of slavery. The gospel says the discipleship with Jesus is to rise above these even intimate human connections, emotions, and feelings. All these must give way in the end to the mission. My family ties, my emotions, my feelings of connections, all this cannot be on the way of my discipleship. No ifs, buts, conditions, and clauses. That is why we need to be careful what we tell Jesus, because the demands of discipleship are quite high. And when Jesus says, follow me, it calls for a complete detachment from all strings attached. Maybe my family, my work, my preoccupations, even my addictions. Third, I will follow you, Jesus, but if, on condition. But if my family is my priority, if everything else is my priority, I cannot be standing firm, as Paul is writing to Galatians, in my on-take of discipleship. Discipleship today, on this 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time, is reimagined, is redesigned. Jesus is giving us a new flavor to follow him. Discipleship reimagined and redesigned. No ifs, no buts, no conditions and clauses. To follow Jesus, only conviction, courage, and commitment needed to make Jesus the inheritance, as we responded in the responsorial psalm. You are my inheritance, O Lord. What are some of those ifs, buts, conditions, and clauses that are on the way of me following Jesus radically? Because discipleship with Jesus is not something that I can pencil in my calendar. This needs an immediate response in this moment right now, not next minute, next week, next month, or next year. This is radical. And to such discipleship, Jesus is inviting me. Am I prepared to eliminate all those ifs, buts, conditions, and clauses, and to follow Jesus here and now, right now? Father Praveen Lakkisetti, here at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Stockdale, St. Anne Catholic Church in Kosciuszko, Texas. Thank you and God bless.